Hey guys, George, Roddy, Tim Harris, creators of FlipThatContract, which is based on over 1,500 real estate transactions we've done in the last 10 years. And our goal today is to build your bank account. I mean, that's our mission, is to show you how to build your bank account in the next 30 to 60 days, because we know that's what you're here for. So part of our program is we modularize these things,
right? And
part of it is lead generation and lead conversion. So, Tim, I wanted to talk about that. I want to talk about the different types. Let's spend a couple minutes and bring them into the different lead sources that we use each and every month.
George, there's really 10 types of leads that you and I focus on and that have helped us over the last 25 years combined. You've got probate leads, which is when someone has recently passed away or maybe inherited a house.
Right.
Vacant, abandoned houses, the houses in a neighborhood, they're the eyesores.
Right.
And also vacant. That's two different kinds of leads. You pre-foreclosures, and we talked a little bit about that yesterday. A pre-foreclosure is not someone that is...
It's not bank owned.
Right.
It's not an REO, which is real estate owned. It's basically someone that the bank has said, that's it, we're going to foreclose. They're 6 to 8 to 12 months behind.
And in Texas, they got the 21-day notice.
Right.
I mean,
Every state's a little different, but bottom line is most banks wait for a homeowner to fall behind 6 to 8 months,
right.
And then they make it public. There's an auction, and that's what pre-foreclosure and foreclosures are. So we definitely market to them each and every month because the motivation's at a high level there.
They're on notice.
They are.
And then you've got ugly but occupied houses that basically people can't keep up with the maintenance anymore, and they're not taking care of the yard, they're not taking care of the exterior of the home. And as you drive through the neighborhoods, as we talk to people driving through to look at REOs, you see these houses, and they're glaringly obvious. Then you've got divorces. A lot of people have been through divorces, and you've got post-bankruptcy. And George, does that mean that they successfully finished bankruptcy?
No.
No.
Basically, that is they filed in an attempt to save their house and save off or starve off the banks from taking the house. They basically filed bankruptcy, but statistics show that 65-68% of the time, people that file bankruptcy still end up not going through the whole process, and they usually end up losing or getting kicked out of bankruptcy. So what we do is, I give you a list of all the people that are in jeopardy of losing their house because they're getting kicked out of bankruptcy. Higher motivation. One thing I like about it is they have one less option, right? And we talk about homeowners have options. They can sell it to us, they can do this, but post-bankruptcy, now they have one less because that's taken off the table.
Right. The next type is notice of default. Is that the same as a pre-foreclosure?
It's close, but basically a mortgage late leads or a notice of default is when you can buy people that are 60, 90, 120 days late on their mortgage, and pre-foreclosures is typically 180 days or 210 days. You're actually getting in front of these people prior to it getting made public. And you get this data from credit bureaus. There's list providers that will have where to get this information for these leads. But it's all about your backyard and figuring out who is motivated in that backyard.
And another great way to find a motivated seller is through the multiple listing service, or MLS. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple different types of motivated sellers on MLS. You have REOs, which is real estate owned.
Bank owned.
So it's a bank owned. It's already finished the foreclosure process and the bank owns it now. Or and Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HUD, one of the major institutions.
Yeah, and I don't know, I like what you're saying, and I think these people need to understand that REOs, it's made public, so everybody knows about that lead.
Right.
And I'm not saying you don't go after REOs, Tim, because we do. We're looking at REOs, but once everybody knows about it, what happens to the price?
It goes up.
It goes up. So I'm not, do you guys implement this strategy and look at MLS properties, REOs? Absolutely. But just understand you're going to need to make more offers on those deals because you've got more interest. There's more people that know about it versus the post-bankruptcies or the probates. Right. So it's all relative, right? These are all lead sources.
you also have expired listings. And George, expired listings are, I mean, they're pretty motivated. They've just tried for 6 months to sell their house, and it didn't happen. So a lot of times I like expired listings because the seller's expectations have been set. Because they tried to sell for 60, 70, and they lowered throughout 6 or 7 months, and then all of a sudden it didn't sell, and now they're trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are great lead sources for, I find more that they're interested in selling, but they don't have as much equity. Right? I mean, if you're looking at lead sources, which ones are loaded with equity, I don't know if I'd put expireds at the top of the list.
No.
You know what I mean? But are they motivated, and would they allow me to step in and take over their mortgage payments? I'm having more success, doing that, and I think you and I are having more success taking over payments on expired listings versus getting them at 62 cents on the dollar.
Right. Then you have code violators. And code violators, there's 2 ways to find them. You can just drive through the streets and look for the red tags on the buildings, or you can go to the city hall and actually, there are different ways that you can take cookies to the code enforcement department.
It's called bribe. Those people, just FYI, all those people at the city, they all eat.
They won't take money.
They won't take money, but they will take cookies. They'll take gift cards. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Bottom line is, how do you get someone at the county to become your friend? Is you got to sweeten the pot. I mean, so I like to take cookies or donuts or things like that, because what I found is those people all love to eat, and that you become their friend, and then each time you go there every month, when we go to that city, hey, they've got a different attitude for me requesting, hey, give me a list of everybody that the city inspector has some violations, because that is rich. One real quick, a couple months ago, one of our students went and got that list, sent 2 postcards, right? Not 4 color postcards, just 2 basic postcards. And the seller owned basically 3 full duplexes, right? I'm told, and
oh, you're talking about Stacy?
Yeah, I'm talking about Stacy. She basically, on the second postcard, got this seller, this landlord, basically owned all of them. He wanted to get out of it because the city was all over him. I mean, he had multiple violations, and the city wanted answers. So, bottom line is, she brought it in. She got it under contract, brought it in. I took it down, and she made a nice wholesale fee.
Stacy did well on that.
She did.
Stacy did well on that. You've also got absentee owners. And what an absentee owner is someone that owns a house, and the mailing address and public record is different than the site address of the house. And
quote unquote, AKA landlord.
Landlord.
Right.
Maybe someone that inherited a house and lives out of state.
Right.
And an absentee owner is a great way to buy a house or multiple houses. I always talk about a gentleman by the name of Delbert that I ended up buying 28 houses from him over a 3-year period. Because what happened is, every time one of Delbert's rent houses would go vacant, he'd call me up, and it was a game. It was fun. Hey, Tim, come on over here and take a look at this house, and I bet you're going to give me 60. And it was always fun. I mean, I really had a good time.
He talked just like that?
Delbert was a great guy. Yes, he did. He was from Southwest Texas, and he was.
He had a thicker accent than you.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that was possible.
And so, I mean, the first time I bought, it was like 8 houses the first time, 6 the next, and finally one day he called me about 3 or 4 houses, and I went out there and I said, Delbert, look, just let me clean you out, man. You've got 13 left. Give me them all, and let's move on. And then, actually, sad story, Delbert ended up passing away, and I was actually a pallbearer in his funeral.
Wow.
And his wife Betty called me up, and their home, the homestead that they lived in, Delbert had Alzheimer's, and it had gotten in a state of disrepair.
Yeah.
And that was the final house I bought from Delbert. It was the homestead, and I did well on that. Sold it to a neighbor, and it worked out well for everyone.
Wow.
Because Betty was able to just get out.
So it's more, I mean, Flip That Contract and building this it's more than just dollars, right? It's about building relationships, and that might sound kind of cliche-ish, but I think it's true. If you treat these people right, they'll tell other people's, and it's that referral system and paying it forward. So,
well, George, it's one of the reasons we created Flip That Contract, because it's not a gimmick. It's not a fly-by-night get-rich scheme. It's actually it's a way of life. It's a career,
right.
And it's an industry that, like we talked about the other day, no matter how much the market goes up or down or sideways, you're in this game, and it's all about the people and the houses, and ultimately we solve people's problems and connect the house with someone that is looking for a house.
Right. And we're that facilitator.
Yeah. And it's a great business. It's rewarding. It's fun, and we don't spend as much time on the golf course as we should, but we'll fix it.
There'll be days. Okay, so Tim, we're talking about marketing. We just went over the lead sources, right? And we're going to show you exactly. I mean, look, you got to pick your poison. Our philosophy is, not blast out to all of these, but you need to pick a few of these and be consistent.
Yeah.
And this is really what it's talking about, targeted.
Yeah, I mean, George and I both practice and preach what we call it's laser marketing instead of shotgun marketing. We want you to go out and pick one area of town and one source of information or leads and become a pro at that. And part of doing that, George, is by, I don't like to knock on doors. I don't knock on doors. I don't chase people around. I like to send people postcards or letters.
Direct mail.
Direct mail. Targeted only to the type of houses and the areas I want to buy in.
In your backyard.
Yep, and get them to call me.
Yeah.
That way.
When they're ready.
Exactly.
All you do, you focus on is being consistent and get in front of them and with a message of who you are and what you do.
Exactly.
Right? So they have two ways of approaching you, whether it's via your phone number, which the majority of people are going to do,
right,
or it's your website.
Exactly.
And so which points is pushing them to your phone number,
exactly,
or fill out the form. So bottom line is targeted marketing, having a consistent targeted campaign each and every month, whether you're going after probates, absentee owners, and there's certain quantity and how many times. We're going to teach you in the FTC formula is how many times do you market to pre-foreclosures or to post-bankruptcies, right, or to probates. What's the quantity and the duration of how many campaigns? So,
and then the thing is, at the end of the day, you've got prospects, and you've got to figure out a way to market to them, to turn them into leads, and then you turn those leads into deals.
X amount of those leads are going to, you got X amount of prospects that you start with. X amount of them are going to call you, and X, and it dwindles down. It's a numbers game. We don't have any secret sauce that says, "Hey, send out 10 offers, you're going to get 22%." Every month it changes, right? Sometimes you and I will buy 5 houses, and sometimes we'll buy 1 house.
The key to real estate investing in marketing is consistency. A lot of you watching this right now have probably, at one time or another, bought a foreclosure list or bought a list of absentee owners and sent out 6,000 or 7,000 postcards and then called and said, I didn't buy any houses. And I want to convey to you that I would rather, I believe and I feel and I am more successful because I mail 1,000 addresses, but I mail them 6 months in a row. It's repetition. It's Monster energy drinks. It's something that I like, but they were on the market for 6-7 months before I ever bought them.
Right.
And once you see it enough, you think, oh well, let's check it out. If you just see it once,
right,
you're a lot less likely to buy it or inquire about it.
Sure.
So it's the repetition and consistency. We joke about the probate list. There'll be months that go by and I don't buy a single house, and then there'll be a month where I buy 3 or 4.
Right.
And so it's just all consistency
from that list.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the key ingredient. That's the secret sauce. And now, how do we do that? You've got offline, you've got online.
Right.
Offline being your direct mail, the door hangers. Whenever I'm driving for ugly properties, ugly but occupied, or looking for abandoned houses in my backyard, is having a marketing piece or having something to leave at the door because. Usually they'll come back.
Right.
A lot of times they'll come back or talk to the neighbors and things like that. So postcards, letters, bandit signs, door hangers, and then you have online, which is your brochure website, which, again, just getting started, what do you need?
If you look at the screen right now, you're looking at an image of George's squeeze page for where he buys houses. And this image, if this was live on your computer screen, you could click on the little arrow right underneath George's chin, and it would play a quick, what is it, George, 3 minutes?
Yep.
This is an example of the contest video we're asking you to enter. I mean, and this is George's, it's on all of his marketing pieces, and it's where George asks people, he gets to know them, it's very personable, introduces himself, and a lot of times, George, you were saying that they'll end up calling you off your phone number right below instead of filling out the form below.
All right, so on the right-hand side, you've got the postcard, and these are templatized where you can customize the message and your phone number and your website, and you'll get that in the FTC formula program. And on the other side, you'll have a nice, grabs their attention, right? You got to grab their attention. So I have different images of people that are in front of a house, and it has different messages. So anyway, you don't have to go fancy like this. You can have, we got over 50 different marketing pieces for you, depending on different lead sources.
Right.
You know, my message to a probate is going to be a little different than someone who's in pre-foreclosure.
And I think our point is, no matter what someone watching this video does, that you need to pick something and go with it. You can spend so much time trying to recreate the wheel that, I mean, this slide that you just looked at, take that text and duplicate it and start mailing and start advertising, but don't start unless you're ready to be consistent.
And do it every month. Whatever you can afford, do it every month.
Because that's how you determine what you can afford. Is you got to set a budget and stick to the budget.
6 months. Yep. Set up a 6 month. Is it $500 a month? Is it $200? I mean, at a certain point, you've got to figure out what can you afford, and then once you start getting the checks in, you start adding marketing dollars to it.
Once that bank account's built.
That's right. It's all about building that bank account. So the big thing is, I want to make sure that all of you guys are taking advantage of the contest, right? Go and shoot a video, a 3-minute video explaining who you are and what you do and why these people should fill out the form or call you. And, you guys have an opportunity to make $1,000, okay? Somebody out there is getting $1,000 cash from us.
And you never know. If they post it on YouTube, someone might find it and call them up and...
That's right. There might be an added benefit, yeah.
But George, the thing about lead conversion is it's so important to be ready for the call. Because if you're consistent and you follow this system, the calls are going to come.
Wait a minute. If they do what we're asking them to do,
yes,
they're going to get calls.
Yes, people will call you, and they will want you to sell their house. And you have to be ready. You have to be ready, because what will happen is they'll call and they'll say, "Now I'm not giving this thing away." And you can't get defensive and, I would never. You just got to have fun with it. You treat them like it's an old friend calling you. And even if they don't want to act like it, and you tell them, hey, dadgummit, I've been waiting for the call that they're going to call me and say they want to give me the house. Still hadn't come. I'm waiting. And but then the next thing they ask, George, is they're going to ask, how does this work? I've never done it before. I'd say 90% of the people that call me, the first thing they say is, how does this work? I've never done it before. And a lot of them, George, have never even sold a house, period, much less a house as is.
Gotcha.
And that's where you really practice that 3-minute who you are and what you do. Because you just tell them, hey, it's pretty simple. We're looking to buy houses. Your neighborhood fit the criteria.
We're a discount. We usually don't pay retail. We're a discount buyer. We're looking to buy houses as is.
Yeah, I mean, we're out to make a profit, but I'm not trying to take advantage of anyone. And they'll respect that. You get some people that say, look, I'm just trying to save realtor fees. And we've got some scripts and some objection things that you could say that's not going to be a prime candidate for a motivated seller. But when you're new, I recommend you go on the appointment.
Absolutely.
And you go practice negotiating.
Because after 10 of these, you're going to get good. You're going to see some things, and you're going to develop this. But that's the big thing. Why are we so confident? Is because we've done it so many times, and I'm very comfortable and confident when I sit down when I walk through a property. And that's not built overnight.
Now, and I told you in the first video about the first house I ever bought and how the seller ended up coming out $15,000 in less than a 24-hour period.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. Don't try to be Mr. Know-It-All or Mrs. Know-It-All. Because if they tell you they're looking to save realtor fees, they're not telling you all the story most likely. And George, if they're ready to discount at 6%, Who's to say you can't get out there, form a relationship, and get
It might be
another
16.
Yeah, 16, 20.
Or 26.
And then who's to say that the value they're basing that 6% off of is the right value?
Bottom line is, and I'm not trying to be, the bottom line is, if you're working your backyard, it shouldn't be a problem to drive 15 minutes to this house or 20 minutes. But if you're working some random place because you think that's where all the opportunities are, it's not. There's opportunities in your backyard.
Right.
Now, again, you got to go to where the people want properties, and some people might be in a less populated area, and so you got to drive 30 minutes. Like you. I mean, you don't live in a highly populated
I live out
area.
in the country. Let's just say it. I'm a good old boy, country boy, and
I wouldn't want to go there.
It takes me 30 minutes to get to the highway, much less somewhere else.
Right.
I'll tell you this though. One thing is, there's a lot of scripts out there, George, and a lot of people give you scripts, and scripts are great for practice, but don't try to read a script while you're on the phone with a seller, because it takes away all of the personality and authenticity. And what you'll end up doing, George, is you'll end up interrogating them. Mm-hmm. And if you interrogate someone, none of you watching this video want to call someone and they start to interrogate you. They want to get off the phone. It's like talking to the IRS.
Right.
Like, how much did you make? And you want to get off the phone. So I say use scripts, but practice them before the call, because when the call comes in, it's game time. And then listen for buzzwords. When we sell, or we need to sell, or I'm going to sell, or I have to sell.
Right.
That's very, very important while you're on the phone call.
We're going to go over all that in the FTC program, and I'm not trying to, but bottom line is we got only so much time on this video to go through it.
So practice who you are and what you do. Don't interrogate, and just be a good listener, and that'll get you ready. And so then you get the address off the phone call, and you prepare for the appointment, George. You've got to run comps. You need copies of the sold listings in that area. You need copies of the leased listings in that area. And you're going to need to get a realtor for that, or join a provider service. And there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, an investor MLS service. You don't have to. Part of your team could be having a realtor and opening up doors and stuff like that, but you got to have access to MLS.
And depending on your area that you're in, watching this video, it's going to be different, and we can try to help point you in the right direction for that access.
Right, but you got to have that. You got to know what the comps are. I mean, so whether you get it from a friend, a realtor, or you subscribe to a third-party company that has all the comps. We're going to help you with that. That you have to have that. Okay, so you got the comps. And we got a 2-hour training just on that, on how to value the property, right?
Yeah.
What do you call it? It's the not the mining the MLS, but it's
the real estate intelligence, making sense of the data.
Yeah.
So major repairs. Listen for the call. If they say there's the foundation shot, you're going to want to take, until you learn what you're doing, you're going to want to take a good contractor with you, and you can find those through your local investment clubs. And then travel time. Always take that into account. Like me, I know it takes me an hour to get anywhere, George. Where you live, you farm your backyard, you can get pretty much anywhere in 15, 20 minutes, unless it's rush hour.
That's right.
So then you arrive at the appointment. You want to be on time, early, 5 to 10 minutes early. Couple rules of thumb: dress casual, kind of like George and I are right now. Have a collar and some buttons, but you don't need a tie and a suit. You don't need to wear slacks, especially when you go into one of these filthy houses, because a lot of these houses are filthy. And you don't want to be wearing nice shoes and slacks and walking around in, cat urine.
Right.
Let's just get it out there. A cat house. You all have a cat house one day, and wow. It's like a hazmat zone, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, respect the territory. Don't block them into the house. Don't block the driveway. Don't try to walk into the front door and just show them around. Let them show you around. It's their house. Don't point out negative issues overtly. Don't bring their attention to something that they already know is there. George, I use the example: if there's a 2-inch crack in the wall, there's no need to say, "Wow, that's a big crack," because they see it. They've been seeing it, and that's one of the reasons they called you.
Right.
You're going to need a repair analysis form. We have one, but if not, then you're going to need a standard sheet.
Well, just to walk around and to figure out and to calculate, because we're always trying to estimate how much it's going to cost to rehab this, and we've got to put that on our, and justify or figure out what's it going to take in our eyes. And we know that you haven't done a lot of rehabs. You haven't done as many rehabs as we have. But there's tools, there's tips, there's tricks, and we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes on running the numbers, right? And estimating what is it going to take to rehab this property and some general rules of thumbs. And then once you see certain things, you add that to your estimate.
Well, George, we're already there. I mean, we just talked about walking the house and getting ready for the appointment. So why don't we just go over the smart offer sheet?
Okay, let's do that. So what we have here, Tim, is what we call the smart offer sheet.
And if you click below, you can download this in a PDF copy so that you can look at it as we go over it.
So we got 3552, and everything in blue is what I want you to fill in. Now I'm going to quickly go over this, and this is just a basic, hey, how to run the numbers. So you've got 3552 Merrill. The subdivision is Wood Lake. You got a tax value. That's the tax assessed value is $190,000. I didn't propose that. That's what the appraisal district or taxing entities or the appraisal district valued it at. Then the size of the property. Why is that important, Tim? It's because over the years we've seen, and it's cost me, and we start analyzing the numbers, that what is a normal rehab cost at the end investor? And a normal rehab is probably $10. Right? Just an average.
Right.
So $10 per what? Per square footage. So this is a 1,900 square foot house. So I could say on average, at a minimum, it's going to be $19,000. Now, on the screen, I have ERC, which says $22,800. It takes the 1,900 and times it by $12, which would be $22,800. ERC is estimated rehab cost. And then you have ERC at 13, 15. That's just kind of depending on, hey, is it in decent shape? And usually on an older property, this property was what, 1960?
Yeah, early 60s.
Yeah. Typically, I'll say 1960 is at least $12, just because it's like peeling an onion, old onion. There's a lot, you think you got,
not just an onion.
You think you got everything worked out, but once you peel one layer, there's a couple other layers that you got to fix. So I put in $22,000. This thing needed some foundation work, needed a new kitchen. And so what I did was I kept on adding. My baseline was 12, and then I added in addition to the 12, there wasn't a new roof on this one.
No.
No, but foundation, and we needed to gut the kitchen because...
the kitchen and the bathrooms.
Yeah. So bottom line is, if you look down, my estimated sales price, my ESP came up to $220, and I verified that with 3 different comps, right? There's
You mean active listings?
Sold listings.
Sold listings.
I don't want to know what Fantasyland is.
How far back were those sold listings, George? I mean just rule of thumb. So
I'd love it if they could be 3 months.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm trying to look for 6, something within 6 months. But I'd love it if it was 3 months.
And that's important to know as you're looking at wholesaling properties to rehabbers like George and myself, is the reason we look 90 days back primarily is because it's going to take us 2 or 3 months to get this thing on the market.
Right.
So we want to make sure that when we sell a house, because George and I, we always sell it in 3 months, right?
Yep.
No, close. But the point is, we want the comps we use to buy the house.
Right.
We want them to be available to the appraiser when we sell a house.
Right.
And if you go 5.5 months back, the appraiser's not going to use those comps whenever you sell them. So it's
the rule of thumb is you'd like it to be 3, but sometimes it might not be there, or you can't. Again, we've got a whole training module on valuing real estate. So back to the SOS.
Yes, sir.
We've got 220, then we got 35,000 is what I estimated for the rehab. Buying costs. Now this is where I differ, because my buying costs, if I'm paying cash.
This is very important that George points this out. There are 3 or 4 versions of the SOS, and the version you're looking at that you just downloaded is the all cash offer version. This is if you're wholesaling a house to someone that has cash. Not that offers cash and then uses a loan.
Right.
This is they are going to get a cashier check from their bank account and buy the house.
Right.
So $300 is, George, I guess you close into open title, don't get a title policy.
Well, and that's another thing is the way you set it up. Yeah, he's buttering me, or he's trying to trip me up. But bottom line, and he's true. If the seller, if you are wholesaling it to me, you like me to pay for all the fees, right? You're the wholesaler, you want to pass all those, but I'm looking at that, I'm looking at it as, hey, the seller should pay for all the title. So it's a negotiable item.
So the point is, we're going to teach you how to make sense of some of these numbers, but it costs George about $300 to buy a house in closing costs, and so then
if you're paying for all the closing fees, right?
Right. So then, what are holding costs, soft costs, George?
Just talking about the utilities and lawn service and HOA fees and things that go into the soft costs, the holding costs in a rehab, and you've got to account for that. And I usually estimate 4 months. I mean, I should get this thing sold in 4 months, even in this, even in this volatile market. If you've got a good product, you'll sell it.
Now, George, we were just scaring everyone on the last video that the economy's awful and the market's awful, but I think what you and I want to convey is that there's still people like you out there that are buying, fixing, and selling houses because if you do it right, they sell.
Yeah.
I think my average day on the market in the last 18 months is 6.8. George, I know he moves a lot of product. So
mine's not 6.8, but it's usually I'll have it under contract within the first 30 days. Yeah. I mean, I would say 7 out of 10 of my houses are under contract, and we close it in 2 months, like 1 month for marketing and 1 month for closing.
And those are exceptional numbers, but it's easy to do, and that's why this market, George, is really, it's lending itself to wholesale, because we can, as a wholesaler, I can get a better deal because the general public is being told by the media that no one buys houses anymore.
Right.
And I can get a better deal, and if I have someone like you that I network and meet, I can actually wholesale you the houses for about the same that you would have paid a year or two ago because you've got a good strategy going.
Right.
And so it's definitely a good opportunity. Now tell me about the 4 months of real estate taxes. You have to pay income tax on that house?
Yeah, real estate taxes. So property taxes, not income taxes.
Oh, okay.
And I put in here, you've got commissions, which I have 4%.
Right.
Because really it's not even 4 because I'm a licensed agent.
Right.
And that's why I got my license, is when you buy and sell 30 houses a year, it just makes sense for me to become an agent.
And it's important for the wholesaler to know that, because if I'm selling to you, I know I can factor in that you're going to pay less commission. Whereas if you were wholesaling to me, you know that I pay 6%, so you would actually, your numbers would change a little bit on this SOS sheet.
Yeah, and what we want to teach is, look, just estimate there's going to be 6%. Well, whatever is normal in your market, right? Somebody from Louisiana, it might be 8%.
And you're just going to have to learn by networking. And I mean, there's no magic bullet.
Yeah. Yeah. So taxes, you've got property taxes, 4 months of that. And, I put in 2.5% because that's the average percent that we pay in property taxes.
Right.
The last one is selling cost, right? When I sell the property, I'm going to have to pay. Normally, it's pretty traditional for the seller to pay. Remember this. It's pretty traditional for the seller to pay closing costs. So I put in 1.5% or 1.25% for closing costs for home warranty and escrow fees. And it differentiates depending on the state. And then lastly, the most important thing is, what is the end investor going to make? And I plugged in $25,000, and so it automatically calculates this, and it says the max purchase price for an investor would probably be $142,700 or $475.
And then that's what you're going to pay me.
Yeah.
So I've got to figure out how much I need to make.
Right.
And then in that box where it says prospector wants, I write 50,000. No.
Yeah.
So this is one of those deals where I get to show a $50,000 check.
If you can make 50,000, more power to you, brother.
But most likely, it's going to be between 3 and 7. But this is about not being greedy. Right. If I treat you right and get you a good product, and you do well on it, and you're going to be a fan, and next house I get that's even anywhere near this, I might be able to get 4. I might be able to get 6. But you and I both on a wholesale basis have so many clients that we sell to over and over and over again.
Because they're fans and they know. And they'll ask less and less questions the more and more deals they do, because it builds trust.
And they'll move quicker. And the quicker you move on one of my deals, the more money I make, and also the more security I have in making offers and in marketing property.
Right.
And it's all about confidence. And you talk about a confidence boost when you get to where you can sell your houses 1, 2, 3 days on your way back to the office, and you can call and say, "Hey, George, I just did this. Right. I'll take it. I'll take it." That's success in this business.
That's when you do the high fives, the internal high fives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Driving through the truck. Oh, that's clapping.
Exactly.
Okay.
Let's move on. All right. So bottom line is 137,475. If you are the wholesaler, that's what you need. And before you even go on the appointment, you already have an idea.
Yeah.
You already have an idea. We're going to train you, but on coming up with the rehab and running the numbers and the MLS. But before I go on an appointment, I already have an idea of what I need to get it for. And if I'm wanting to make $5,000 or $10,000, I need to kind of, and maybe they told me, maybe they haven't, but 137,500 is about where I need to be.
And then part of that walk in the house is asking some questions, listening to what they say, figuring out if it's money or time that's motivating them, figuring out if there's an underlying mortgage, and learning how. And you really need to make sure you ask those type of questions in a non-intrusive way. It needs to be very just, oh, do you owe anything on the house? It's just very casual, just a conversation. And that's really it. I mean, I hope this smart offer sheet helps, and I hope all of this about leads and motivated sellers and marketing materials has helped.
In this little segment, yeah. I mean, that we put together. So, how do you want to,
What's next? We've got another video we'll be publishing here in a couple days. That video is going to be about, once you get these deals, how to package it up, how to promote it, and how to get a good buyer in a timely manner. Again, we thank y'all for listening to this video. We'll have another video in a couple days. And until then, it's your life, it's your journey, and Flip That Contract's about the rest of your life. So if you want to build your bank account in the next 30 to 60 days, keep watching these videos, and we'll see you soon.